Okay, it's time to get back to it. Been pretty busy with other things, and yeah, I did get a new phone, so the videos may look a little different. It's a new Samsung, but I made some more progress without shooting video on this 924 turbo engine rebuild install. Let's take a look. So the last video I did, I was trying to figure out what connects to that hard pipe way back in there. And I got some pictures from a helpful subscriber. Thank you very much. And it's that mystery hose, that mystery hard pipe, which turned out to be basically a vapor line, and that will connect up here on the valve cover. So that was very helpful. And what else have I done? I went ahead and ran this little harness to the alternator, fished that underneath the intake manifold, so that's got the power that comes off the alternator, and another, I think it's like a reference. If you remember, that whole harness that goes to the alternator and the starter, I did a rebuild on it, and I used some good number 2 welding cable, because the old stuff was cracked in pretty bad shape. So coming off the battery, I've got all fresh number 2 welding cable for the ground. What I do need to connect, I've got this this grounding cable I made. I think originally that was like a strap, a ground strap that was falling apart. So that should be an improvement, and I'll just probably ground that right to that ground post on the top of the manifold. What else? Got the AC compressor in, and the hoses hooked up to it. Also, I was on the last video, I was trying to figure out, I had notations on these vacuum hoses of just hard pipe, and I'm looking all through like the Wayne's manual, and I'm going, where is the vacuum hose diagram? And meanwhile, it's sitting right here on the fender. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I double checked that, and yeah, I got those hoses in the right spot. So off that weird T, this one goes to the, it's called an intake tube on the diagram, and then this hose goes, well, this one here goes up to that tube, and then the one off the T comes off the brake booster, anyway, so all that is in the right spots. I've got one more vacuum hose to hook up, actually a couple. This one that goes to the fuel distributor, and this one that comes off the charcoal canister that goes to the air box. So I think the next thing, well, I need to go ahead and get the gaskets on the valve cover and seal it up, put oil in the engine. I need to put in the coolant reservoir and all the hoses associated with it. And then I'm still waiting on those rubber mounts for the fuel distributor. No telling when those are going to come in. But I think I can move forward a little bit further. I don't know that I can get these big pipes on here because that's all related to the coolant. I think I need to get the fuel distributor on before I can put those on. So I'm just going to use sealant right there where the little seal that wraps over the camshaft bearing there. There's a little gap there. So I'm just going to put a dab on either end because that would definitely leak oil. All right, valve cover's on. I made it up the elbow on that vent on the valve cover. I did the ground back to the grounding post in the battery compartment. And I put on the coolant reservoir, which just slides on to into those slots. So yeah, I may come to a screeching halt here because I'll take a look at it with all those tubes on the coolant, but I don't know where I can put them in and still get the fuel distributor in there. Let me fiddle around with that and I'll let you know if you can do that. Okay, I'm gonna put them on, and you know, if I have to take them off, I'll take them off. What the heck? So the bigger of the two hard pipes, the tight elbow goes up to the thermostat. There's a bracket that joins on to a rubber bumper standoff that is part of the alternator bracket, right? And then it makes a bigger elbow into the radiator. Note that there's pretty close proximity to your alternator. The air conditioner compressor. So be mindful of that. But I think I've got it in the right spot. So let me see if I can find the location on the smaller of the two. So the smaller of the two goes from the lower passenger side radiator hose pipe over to the coolant reservoir. And I remember these two little brackets here join to the underside of the air filter box. Also, I am mindful of the fact that I still have yet to put in the radiator fan assembly, which my experience with those is they're pretty thin and relatively easy to get to. So I think I'm okay. I don't think I'm getting myself in a position where I can't get that in, but I might be wrong about that. All right, so here's the fan assembly. I've done a little cleaning on it. I think I'm going to clean back on the back of the motors a little more. And I was looking if there's an orientation because the mounts are symmetrical top and bottom, but there is a couple little cutouts. There's one there and there's two there. So that should correspond with the pipe fittings on the radiator. I'm also going to get a battery out and test the motors. I'm pretty sure they're good, but it doesn't hurt to test them again. All right, I put the fan shroud in from underneath. It's easier that way, that's for sure. And the notches do correspond. So the single notch would be the lower passenger side corner. And yeah, I think I'm gonna still have room in here to get the fuel distributor in when I get those rubber mounts, but you know, I'll take it apart again if I don't. What the heck? I got one more hose to go on. It's a big one that goes from the radiator somewhere. I'll find out. It was from the radiator up to the water pump. So, very simple. Okay, that should be all the coolant hoses. I think there's one other little tiny spigot on the reservoir that may be for like an overflow. I don't even know it had a hose on it, but no big deal. Okay, I think the last thing I'm going to do today, I put the coil back on, and that's got a bolt that joins it to the firewall, and on the other side, it's a bolt that sticks out of the firewall. I haven't found the nut for it yet, but so one side the bolt goes through, the other side the bolt comes out. And then your connectors on it are really straightforward because you've got a double, if yours still exists, like a bracket that joins onto the pole marked what? 1, of course. And then on the other pole 15, there's two spade connectors that go there. So I think that's going to do it for this afternoon. I really need to get that fuel distributor in, those mounts, get that in, get all the fuel lines routed and plugged up. And then probably last thing will be to put the distributor cap on and the plug wires, and we are getting close. Thanks for watching, guys. You guys have probably noticed that I reuse old hardware all the time. I like having the original hardware unless it's just completely corroded all to hell. Much of the time I'll take it to a wire brush anyway and clean it up and reuse it. However, I'm getting to the point now where I'm getting low on hardware. I don't know where it's all gone. I try to keep everything together, but you know, there's a lot of stuff going on in this shop. So I took a trip to Lowe's and look what I got. I got 2 sandwich containers full of 6mm and 8mm nuts and bolts. This will come in super handy. Hopefully it will last me a year. Depends on how many of the original nuts and bolts I lose. So part of the reason I did this is because these mounts for the fuel distributor. So this is the only one that's together. The other 2, had fractured and the little end bolts had come off. I think you'll remember on the exhaust it had a couple of these rubber bushings, but bigger. I think they were 8mm. And one of them was fractured, and I was actually able to use some contact cement. I use this weldwood. If you do it correctly and let it set up real good, this stuff is great. It will glue just about anything. But also, I got looking through my parts bins, and I found these 2 rubber standoffs. Now, they came from a 928 project. A little different shape, but they're the right height. However, they're not long enough. So yeah, you don't have enough thread. So can't use those. You know, if I was going to glue these back on with the contact cement, I am missing one of them. So that won't work. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 6mm, the correct length. Hopefully I got that. Probably doesn't even need to be that long, right? Something like that. And then I'm just going to drill a hole through these and go that route. They'll be slightly less tall, and this one's already like compressed anyway, but at least I can get the fuel distributor in. I mean, also I've got three of these ordered, They're probably coming from Germany, and who knows when they're going to get here. But I'd like to get this thing together. I mean, ultimately, I want to start it, or try to start it. So I think that's the best way to go, is just drilling a hole through the rubber, and it'll sit on that with the bolt passing through it, at least temporarily till I get the real ones. Another thing I did is I bought some grommets. Now, you could stack those up, and they would be about the same height. I don't know, they're just a tad shorter. I mean, run your bolt through the grommets. Pretty spongy, maybe too spongy. Yeah, I think I like the rigidity of the original rubber. So it's a little extra trouble, but I think I'm going to do that for now. All right, that should work okay till we get the real ones. Okay, got the bracket installed. I'm leaving it loose, so when I get the fuel distributor on the bracket with that accordion tube, or it goes down to the turbo, I can adjust that to get good alignment. Okay, so this accordion tube could go on two different ways. It could be like this, or it could be like this. Now, I put it on like this, and it didn't seem to move the bottom of it far enough, because there's an offset, right, from whenever you've got the fuel distributor in there. So I think this is the correct way. I also measured the two ports. The one going into the turbo is 60 OD, and that one coming off the fuel distributor is 62. However, both of these are about the same. I mean, 2 millimeters is no big deal on a rubber hose. I'm going to put a little assembly lube around it. I don't want to monkey this up, because these things are super rare. And I'm going to try it in this orientation. Okay, that appears to have worked out quite nicely. Being able to get it from the underside is super helpful to guide that onto the turbo. I'm going to nestle it in a little bit more, and then tighten up on the band clamps, and then I'll do all the mounts. I think you want to settle it to the accordion hose as best you can, and because you got several adjustments on the mounts, so keeping the least amount of stress on that hose. So what I found out was that you cannot get to those bolts on the mount after the fuel distributor is in there. You can see one of them right there, the 3 bolts that hold the mount to the frame. So I had to take the hose off, pull the fuel distributor out. But I'd kind of found the sweet spot on the mount, because it's a slotted mount, right? The holes are slotted. And it turned out to be right in the middle of those slots on all 3 of those bolts. So anyway, once I tightened them down, it all went back together just like it did before. I also got that vacuum hose routed that comes over the top of the alternator, AC compressor, and it passes along that bracket right there. There's a hose clamp under there, and then it goes on to the bottom fuel distributor. So everything is in there. So I think the next thing will be to start putting the fuel lines on. And I've got them all labeled. I think I want to get the engine to top dead center again and verify that with a dowel in the number 1 cylinder and make sure my cam is lined up. Everything's lined up because I can do that with a spark plug out. And then once I'll probably put a couple little drops of motor oil in each cylinder to help on the first startup. So that's done. That's a lot easier to do without all the fuel lines in there. Get to the spark plugs. Well, I'm glad I checked because I don't know if I can show you the timing mark down in there. It's probably going to try to focus on everything, but that, yeah, you can barely see it. That silver spot right in the middle of the frame. That's the timing mark on the flywheel. I know number 1 piston is all the way up. However, looks like the camshaft is advanced about 2 teeth. So I need to take loose on the belt and turn that back a couple of teeth. Okay, we got everything lined up. The plugs are back in. Put a little, maybe a tablespoon of oil down in each cylinder. And belt is tightened up. So next thing is all these fuel lines. Okay, I got all the lines routed to the fuel injectors, and I put on that one line that goes to that cold start valve. So now do these banjo bolts on the send and return lines from the fuel tank, and this line from the warm-up valve. And then this one, or maybe this is a warm-up valve. Anyway, I got them marked. Good thing, because there's a lot of them. Okay, all those lines are on the fuel distributor. I'm missing the little screw that goes here, but I got them all in the right spots. I only had to check one thing. It was these 2 lines and the routing of them, but I confirmed that on the pit. Also, I figured out where this thing goes. This bracket's been floating around. It goes down here on the frame. And guess what? It's got some rubber standoffs. Look at that. So that helps support the airbox. So put that on, and then I'm done for the evening. Tomorrow, if I'm off work, it'll be all about putting fluids in this thing. And also put the ignition wires on it. We're getting close, fellas.